so 50 more baseball, and then it has to give up 100 bananas. Okay, so we have some answers. All right, let's look at B first. The move involved no opportunity cost, so it's wrong, right? Because we face the trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, the economy benefited from the technology advance. It's not correct too, because if we have technological advancement in the production, so the curve will shift outward. Okay, it shift outward to a new position. The opportunity cost of each additional banana is 2 baseball. Is it correct?
No.
No, right? Because here we need to, okay, we produce 50 more baseball, then we give up 100 bananas. So it's not 2, for if we talk about want. But if we talk about want, to produce 1 more baseball, we need to give up 2 bananas. Okay? Because the amount of banana we produce, like give up here is 100 for 50 more baseball. So it double. Okay, so that's why you choose this option B.
Yeah, so that
Right.
means we simply take 100 divided by 50, right?
50.
Opportunity
Okay,
cost.
100 divided by 50. But if we talk about from B to C, we take 50 divided by 100. Okay, it's just
Yeah.
the point. C to B or B to C. Okay, right.
Yeah,
So that's
thank you.
all for anh Thư answer. Consent. All right, so no problem, Thư. Okay, let's continue. Okay, any other question before we talk about today 4, 5, and 6? All right, guys, so don't worry if you don't have question at this point. Just feel free to let me know question by email. Okay, I will get back to you my detailed explanation. So don't worry too much about that. Okay, so just feel free to let me know question, and then I'll give you the answer. That's all. Okay, right. So at no other question, I think it's time for us to move to the revision of 4, 5, and 6. Okay, the chapter that you just learned last week. All right, so let me share the screen and take note the key points. Right, guys, make sure your camera is on. Later on, I will check your attendance again, and then if some of you just join the class for the first attendance, so and then I know that you just leave the class, so I will mark you as absence. Okay, I think that previously when I checked your attendance, no one is absent today, so we must have 35 students in the class, but here we only have 34 students. So where is the remaining student? Okay, I want to know the name of that student. Later on, I will check it. Okay, right. So chapter 4. This one, I think this is the easiest chapters in the microeconomy. Okay, so in the first section, chapter 1, we talk about the law of supply and demand. That is explained by Adam Smith Invisible Hand. Okay, so in chapter 4, we will try to understand clearer about supply and demand for an individual products, or like faced by individual firm or like a customer. Okay, so very simple. We talk about demand first and then supply. Okay, so demand. So can you tell me as you learn how many variables that may influence buyers as they make decision? Okay, from chapter 4. We may have a lot of variable, but as you learn in chapter 4, so can you tell me? Okay, so Tấn Bảo. Yes, Tấn Bảo. All right, can you tell me the answers? Right, I think that Bảo, maybe you forget to unmute yourself or something similar, so I cannot hear you. Yes, Bảo.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here. I'm sorry, that's my fault.
Okay.
You
All right.
see that there four main things. First one is the price of the related goods. Next is the income that we have. Next the reference of test we have, and finally the price of good.
Okay, the
I
price of
see.
the good, right?
Yeah.
All right. So can you tell me in total how many variables?
4. I think it's 4.
4 variables.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So Bảo answer is for variable. Okay, so thanks Bảo. What about Tú Uyên? Yes, Tú
Okay,
Uyên.
so I think we have like 5 variables. Like it can be first of all is income, and then the prices of related goods, also like the taste of the customers, their expectations, and lastly the numbers of let's say the goods, the number of goods as well. So like 5
Okay.
factors.
Okay, 5 variables from Uyên answers, and just she's just provide all of the factors similar to Bảo. Okay, but the thing here is that I asked you like variable that influence buyers, right? So it can be more than 5 variables. It means we should consider the price of the product as well. Like I remember in Bảo answer, he mentioned about that, but he may forget about other variables. Okay, so be careful with my question here. If I ask you variable that influence buyers, so it means you need to consider the price of the product as well. But if I ask you variable that shift the demand, okay, so it means we can talk about 5 variable here. All right. So for the price, what I mean is that when you change the price, so it is just a movement along the curve. Okay, so when you hide the price, so QD will be smaller. Okay, all right. When you lower the price, so QD will be smaller. Okay, so you can see we have a movement of Q from Q1 to Q2, right? At the price is higher, right? But it's still on the same demand curve. See that? But a shift here, a shift is different. A shift means that we don't change the price. But there are some other variable that increase or decrease your consumption for that product. So the curve will shift. Okay, right? Shift means that right, it can be moving to a right position or left position. It depends on the force. All right. Okay. So can you give me any example that you see, right? That you observe around you, or like your own experience that is related to one of these factors that can shift the demand? Okay, whatever the example you have, like when you buy something or whatever. Is it okay? Let's see. Any new friend would like to have the contributions? Writers, feel free to raise a hand. Okay, so Phương Nghi. Yes, Phương Nghi.
So I'll take an example of the price of related goods that shift the demand curve. So let's imagine that the price of the cinema movie tickets increases. So I mean, at the same time, I think I'm going to buy less cinema movie tickets and use more film streaming services as they are substitute. And yeah, so the rise in the cinema movies price increase the demand for the film streaming service.
Okay, so in this case, we shift the demand to the right, to the left.
So it shifts the demand for film streaming service to the right.
Okay, to the right. Okay, right. Okay, very good example, because here I think you consider about substitute, right? Like the streaming film and then the one at the movie theaters. But obviously we know that just for some kinds of film, right? Yeah, it's kinds of substitute. So if the price of a ticket at the movie theater is higher, so that may encourage you to use more of the streaming service like Netflix or like other illegal website to watch the movie. And then in that case, the demand for those film, the streaming one, will be higher. So it's shifting that demand to the right. Okay, yeah, very good example. And yeah, I think that everyone here can give you all example, because when we buy something, yeah, this is how our and then you can also give example about the trend that recently we have for the food. Okay, like we have trà chanh giã tay, and we have bánh đồng xu or people at the product, it means the number of buyers will be higher for that product. Okay, when this one is higher, demand will be higher, and then demand increase. So we shift the demand to the right. Okay, right. So here, there are some terms I need to acknowledge to you. When we say that the demand increase, we mean about a shift to the right. But if we talk about when price change, the quantity demanded increase, so that is just a movement. Okay, so here we don't say that the demand increase as we talk about the price, but we say QD, quantity demanded increase or decrease. But when you say the whole demand increase or decrease, I mean the shift. Okay, so use the right word, right? Understand the right word? Yes, so that's just about demand. I think it's pretty clear. And next about supply. So similar question. Can you tell me how many variables and then what are those variables that influence sellers? Okay, so Hung.
I think there are 5 variables, and those are price of the good itself, input price, technology, expectations, and lastly is number of sellers.
All right, very good, right? So we have how many here? 5 variable like Hung just mentioned. Right, so basically, similarly, we have price that only cause a movement along the supply curve, like we have for the demand. Okay, so when we use some illustration here, so this is our supply, upward sloping, so we see a positive relationship between price and then QS. Okay, so when price higher, it encourage firm to produce more, and then price lower, firm will produce less and supply less. But again, it's on the same supply curve. Okay, that's what I want you to know about the price. But if you change one of the following variable, it will shift the demand, supply, increase or decrease the supply. Okay, so following my previous example about trà chanh giã tay and then bánh đồng xu, we know that as we have number of buyers join that market to be higher, so some seller may take advantage of the trend because getting the materials and then the initial cost is pretty cheap. So the number of sellers join the market for trà chanh giã tay and bánh đồng xu will be higher, and then shifting the S curve to the right. Okay. Okay, so you can also give your own example, right? So maybe I call one of you, right, just to give me your own example about this variable. Okay, how can it influence the supply of some products? Okay, so anyone would like to share about your own example for the supply? Okay, whatever example you have, supply. Okay, anyone, please? All right. So Anh Thư.
So actually I have a question.
Yeah.
It's like,
Question.
for example, I take the example trà chanh giã tay. So
Mm.
in the hot trend period, even if the price of that food is higher, it also the demand would be constant. It would not decrease. So what is that case? Do you think about that?
All right. So the thing is that here, if we consider about the market of, okay, it's not a market, but the demand and then the supply of trà chanh giã tay for a certain firm. Here, okay, we don't talk about the whole market, but we talk about the demand or the supply faced by a certain firm, okay, or certain products. So if we have the demand for trà chanh giã tay to be higher, so we know that, right, it will shift to the right. And then at first you see that the price of trà chanh giã tay will be pretty high. Okay, but at the same time, if the seller, more and more seller also join the market, so the supply will also shift too. Okay, so when the supply shift, maybe like this, you see that this is a new price of trà chanh giã tay, which is also higher than before. So it is determined based on which force is stronger, whether it is the force of the buyer or the force of the seller, which one is stronger. So that will determine the price for the product to be in the market. Okay, but yeah, that is a good question. Okay, right.
So it can be higher or lower, right?
Yeah, it can be higher or lower depending on the forces, because you see in that case the number of seller and buyer, both of them, join the market. So if they leave the market or if they just new player join the market, yes, so that also impact to the price. Okay, right.
thank
Okay, good example. And okay, so Quỳnh Mai, you want to share something?
I want to an example.
Yeah. So
Like,
Mai.
if the storm is make difficult for the farmer to collect the collect the is it give me
FM or something like the vegetable,
to make
like
sugar.
to make sugar, a sugar cane. Okay, sugar cane.
Sugarcane. So the supplier like the boba store or like the milk tea store can reduce their supply for the market because the price of input is high because farmer can collect many sugarcane for making sugar.
Okay, very good example, right? So from your example, it is about the input price, and then input price is how we use input price like the sugar cane to make sugar, and then later on, some firm if they need sugar for their production, like we can talk about some firm in realities like milk tea shop, right, or like Vina milk or two milk if they use sugar for their production, and then if the input price is too high for them, so it will also impact to the price for their products as well. Okay, maybe yeah, they can hide the price, or like maybe they will have to accept a lower revenue or lower profit from their selling. Okay, right, but it did impact on the supply too. All right, so here just some conclusion for you about supply and demand. So we have some variable that can shift the supply and demand, and then only the price of the product that just call a movement along the curve. Bảo, you want to ask me something?
Well, I think just a question that come from my own example that about the red bell pepper and the price of the tomatoes. Well, we just imagine that the price of the red bell changed, and because and when we go to the supermarket, we see the price of the bell pepper decrease nearly for free, and we will have a calculate for buying bell pepper instead of the tomatoes. And from that, we can say that we can think about the demand of the tomatoes gonna be decreased, and the price of the bell pepper will be goes down and make the demand decrease. So my question is, from the decrease of the demand of those things, can it have any effect to the supplies here?
Yeah, all right, good question. The thing is that all the variable that we mentioned here are the direct variables that will influence a seller. Okay, because like as you produce things, so we'll care about our cost, we care about the factor that affect to our productions, like technology, and then our competitors, number of seller, and our expectation. But there are others indirect factors that will influence our decision to produce more or less, and then consumer is something that you need to be mindful about, right? So it's not really a direct factor that will impact to whether you should produce more or less, but it is an indirect factors. But like I told you, right, we may have others factors that influence the seller when they want to produce more or less. But as we learned here, we just talk about the typical one that strongly and directly influence about the QS. But like the example that you just mentioned about a decrease or like a fluctuation in the decrease for bell peppers and then the tomatoes, so it somehow affect to the supply of bell peppers and then tomato for sure. Because if we don't have any demand for tomatoes, so it means maybe firm they will supply less, and then yeah, that will affect to the QS supply, right? But again, if we talk about yeah, all of these the factor that we just mentioned, so that is all other indirect factors, and then doesn't belong to the direct factor that we have learned. Okay, right? But in reality, we did have other variable. Okay, later on, when we study different types of market structure, so I think you will know clearer about other factors too. Okay, but it's a good example. All right, so just to make sure you are here clear about chapter 4, let me test you by some question before we move to chapter 5. Okay, so my first question for you. So try your best to find the correct answer. Yeah, we have the very fast hand from Hung. Okay, so Hung, what is your answer for my question here?
I choose B because they assume that gasoline is a normal good. So when the like the income increased, so that the demand of gasoline is also increased.
Okay, so Hung, right? Your answer is B. All right, so here I think that is the correct answer because it is about a normal good, right? So here we have some separation, normal good or inferior good. So normal good simply means when your income is higher, you will demand more. Inferior goods mean when your income is lower, you will demand more. Okay, you see the difference? Right. So they are moving in the different direction, given the income change for inferiors and normal good, right? So if you consider gasoline to be a normal good, so it means if you have a high income, you will demand more. So that means the demand for gasoline will shift to the right. Okay, but for some product, it's not for all of you, but some of you may consider instant noodle to be an inferior good because when you have a low income, or like when your parent give you like a very small amount of budgets for a month, you tend to consume instant noodle. But if you work for a company and then a part-time job, you have some extra income, so you tend to consume others, luxurious meal rather than instant noodle. Okay, so it means inferior and normal good. All right. For the option A, we cannot choose, right? Because this is the better price. It cannot shift the demand. An increase in the price of car, a complement of gasoline. So we know that complement, all right, complement and substitute. So complement means you will use the two products together. But substitute means different alternative, right? So complements, the price of car is higher. So people will demand less car. Or like the quantity of car demanded will be lower. And then as they demand less car, so they may demand less gasoline because we need gasoline for car, transportation. All right. And at the end of the day, so to the left, not to the right. Lastly, a decrease in the expected future price of gasoline. So we know that the price of gasoline in the near future will be lower than today. So what is your reaction? Right? Maybe today you will not use motorbike, but maybe you will book a Grab or like you will ask your friend to carry you to the school or like to any others like destination. Okay? Your boyfriend or your girlfriend, take advantage of them and then ask them to carry you. Okay? So you can save a certain amount of money for your spending. But later on in the upcoming 2 weeks, right, the price of gasoline decrease as your expectation. So you can use your motorbike and then increase your demand for gasoline in the upcoming 2 weeks. But nowadays, okay, currently at this moment, you will decrease the demand for gasoline. So to the left, not to the right. Okay. All right. So that's question 1. What about question 2? Okay, so Ngọc Anh.
I think the answer is A because the increase in the price of MP3 players will just move along the supply curve.
All right, just like a movement along the curve, right? Okay, so I think that is the correct answer. Right. So here the thing is would not shift the supply curve. So we should choose the factors that only cause a movement or the factors that won't affect the supply curve. Right? So here we know that number of seller, input price, and then technology. These are the factors that will shift the supply. Okay, but only the price only cause a movement along the curve. Okay, right, so that is about 2, right? Easy, right? Yeah, so for this chapter, supply and demand, so just go around those factors, shift and then do not shift. That's all for you. Okay, right. So now let's move to chapter 5. All right, so chapter 5 is a bit more advanced, just a bit more advanced than chapter 4, but it's not too difficult at all. All right, so we learned about electricity and its application. Okay, a new terms here. Okay, so the pronunciation of electricity is pretty similar to the term electricity, right? Pretty similar. So now in this chapter, I will tell you that there's a link between them, electricity and electricity. So now let's figure out that link by our revision here. Okay, right. So for this chapter 5, there are 3 main points to be covered. Firstly, if we talk about electricity, so we should know how can we compute the E, how can we interpret E, electricity. And secondly, very important, is about their application to firm decision. Okay. And lastly, why we are having the different shape for supply and demand in short run and in the long run. Okay, so these are the 3 points to be covered in chapter 5. All right, so first of all, let me ask you about electricity. So what is it, guys? What does electricity tell you? Anyone? Okay, so Ngọc Mai.
Okay, as I remember from the last session, elasticity is a measurement of how much buyer and seller respond to changes in the price of the market.
Okay, very good, right? So basically, it means that when you buy something or like when you sell something, and then the price is higher or lower. So what is your reaction? And then by how many percent? Like to what extent that you are reacting to the change in the price? Okay, will you react more or less to the change in price? And then that will be measured using electricity. Okay, right. So first of all, the first thing is about the weight on how we calculate. So we learned that 2 methods, right? We can use the definition method or we can use the midpoint method. So it's up to the answer. Sorry, it's up to the information you have in the question, right? So if the question provide you like the percentage, we will use the definition method. So it tells you about the percentage change in QT or QS to the percentage change in price. But if they give you directly the change, it's like the price increase from Q1 to Q2, P1 to P2, or like a Q change. So we use the midpoint method. Okay, so it's up to the information, right? So later on, we will have an exercise for you to practice for this calculation method. All right. And next, okay, what is some of our, conclusion here?